Hello and welcome to the Rainbow Room International podcast channel. I'm your host, Ricardo Corvey, and today we have got Leigh Laura Kerr, who is our Director and Head of Education at Rainbow Room International. And a bit of a soft spot for me because we've worked together for all of Leigh's career and worked really closely with each other in the Buchanan Street Salon, and it's been an absolute privilege to watch her career grow and grow and grow to this, quite frankly, world-leading educator, which is what she is today. So without further ado, let's get into it because we've got a lot to get through in both parts of this podcast. So again, sit down, get comfy and enjoy. Today's podcast has been sponsored by Mataki Scissors, and I'm an ambassador for the brand, and I've been using them now for about 7 months, and they have been amazing. The fact that they're a British-based company, the fact that we can pick up the phone and work with them and we can get everything sharpened with them has been absolutely unique. So today's podcast is brought to you with the help of Mataki Scissors. Right, Leigh, here we go. This is going to be hilarious because this is basically welcome into a window of too many years. Well, what so 96?
96 work experience.
Right, so bad maths.
29 this year.
Oh, wow.
Big 3-0 next year.
That's bonkers,
I know.
isn't it? Right, so we'll go into all of that in a minute, but start with the usual that everybody starts with. So you've got your choice of chocolate.
Okay.
So you've got your Lindor or you've got your Whisper Gold.
So I would pick neither.
I'm understanding this.
I'm definitely a crisp person, but if I had to, if I really had to be put in the spot, it would be Lindor. But I'm going to sneak attack you.
Oh.
And I'm going to raise you.
Have you seen that? Oh, all right.
Scottish
oh, you can't
or
do
Italian.
That to me. Oh, man. Right. Oh, jeez. Right. You've got the old country and you've got the boys that fell at Culloden. Oh,
And it's original
that's
recipe.
the real deal. Oh, no. You can't do that to me. Now, so here's the window into my mind. The proper amount of sugar's probably still in the original Iron Brew, but they've killed the San Pellegrino. But the name, I'm going to have to go in with the San Pellegrino. You can't be called Ricardo Giovanni Corvey for nothing. And my red hair has since left the building. So I'll swap your Lindor for your San Pellegrino. Brilliant, great. Right, as a matter of fact, let's just get them opened and let's get a cheers before we begin. There you go. And I would want it duly noted, by the way, that it's only been the girls that have brought me presents so far. Have you noticed this? Right, Leigh, cheers.
Seems we both need to drive home.
That's it. I know, they were offering us beer in the last one. Right, oh, good. I know, it's missing half the sugar in it, but anyway, we'll get there. Right, so, not your Rainbow Room story. Where did the Laura Kerr story start? Where were you born and where did you grow up? And
Born in the West End, 1981, April 1981, so I'm a proper typical Aries.
Right.
Through and through, if you believe in that stuff. Went to school in the West End, went to Hillhead Primary, Hillhead High. I'm still really good pals with a whole group of kids from school. We're all still really, really close, good pals. I'm back in the house that I grew up in. Born and bred West End.
Wow. I mean, I knew that to a certain extent, but I didn't realise the kind of technical had never really gone that much further than where you were at.
Yeah, so I moved out 2005, 2006, got my own flat in the south side, but I just missed the West End.
Yeah.
I just missed it. And
you either are or you aren't. It really isn't it? And if it's
Yeah.
that deep rooted in you, you've got no chance.
I mean,
Really.
the South Side's trying,
Yeah.
and it's doing a great job, but it just isn't
Yeah.
the West End.
No, it's not. I always take it. My late sister made Strathbungo trendy. It wasn't particularly cool at the time, and then when
Yeah.
Benedetta and Stuart opened up Mulberry Street back in the day, she actually made that. She kind of dragged it down a wee bit for Chollin's Cross. And the less said about what I did in Chollin's Cross, the better. Thanks very much. So swiftly moving on. So school, kind of primary school, what was your vibe at that?
Loved primary. We had a really diverse primary school. It was one of the most sort of multicultural primary schools of its time. I mean, it was like 40 years ago, but
Yeah.
we had 26 different cultures in primary school.
Wow,
growing
which
up.
is massive for Glasgow
Massive.
then.
Massive. So we celebrated
I was the
everything.
multicultural school. There was me and there was a guy, Philip Kaczynski, who had a Polish background, and we were the only two people that's kind of ate different food and did weird stuff at home and had funny names, you know. But
Oh,
that's
no.
huge.
It was massive, and it was great fun because we celebrated everything. So like we would have full big Chinese New Year parties, and there would be dragons coming through the school, and we'd all be dressed up, and everybody would bring in food, and so we would celebrate every single person in that school's holidays and celebrations with as much gusto as we did Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
And everybody got their part in it, and it was just beautiful. It was great fun.
Do you know, it's funny, the thing that comes out of all of these podcasts and talking to everybody and getting their origin story is that there's so many things that happen early doors that then, you know, I've had about 5 light bulbs that just went on my head to where you're at now and who you are now, just for that sentence of going that you grew up in that kind of culture. So primary school, you know, you're getting already enveloped all these different cultures, tastes, colours, senses and everything like that. And then secondary, did you say Hillhead?
Yeah, Hillhead High, which was round, so my primary school was one street sort of down the hill, and my high school was one street at the back, so we could literally climb a fence and get into the school. It was brilliant. Roll out my bed at 8:45 and make it in for 5 to 9 registration.
That's not bad. I definitely condone the rolling out of bed at 8:45, but whether I get there for 9 o'clock,
And you still wouldn't.
Still wouldn't. And that's the running theme of the podcast, actually, is quite frankly my laziness of getting out of bed. Right, so you're the game changer in a lot of this conversation, because school for you and school for the rest of us was maybe slightly different, because you did really well at high school,
Yeah,
didn't you?
I mean, you know, you've got your high school problems, and you follow it with one group of pals and make group, but like the normal teenage stuff. But generally, like, I was good at school. I was academic. I was good at strange subjects. Like, I was good at craft and design. I was great at history, and I was really good at English. I hated maths. Like, I've never been particularly confident with maths, but like, I loved it. I was super sporty, and I think as well when you're super sporty and when you're good at a sport and you play multiple sports and teams, so you're representing your school, you kind of just get on all right in school, like, because you've got like the support of all the rest of the year behind you. Nobody really bothers you, and you just get on with it.
Well, you're kind of a face, aren't you, as well, when you're that, because you're obviously excelling in that. So, kind of straight A's, was it like?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you were
pretty much apart from maths.
Yeah, and it's interesting because again the subjects are interesting, because obviously the way that you'd approach history and the way you'd approach English when you were doing your exams were very similar, because you were discussing subject matter and all that kind of stuff. So you can see why that goes really well, which again, fast forward nearly 40 years and those skills became really important to you. And then obviously we'll touch on why craft and design was obviously really important to what we do, and again especially to where you ended up. So at that time, so let's go like third year, right? What was your path? What did you think you were going to be doing around about then?
Professional volleyball.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to Loughborough University to become a PE teacher.
Wow.
That was the plan.
Right.
That was the plan.
Right.
And all of my exams had been picked, like my subjects had been picked to sit my standard grades, to sit my hires, to go to Loughborough.
Wow. you know my best pal, that's what he did. Have I ever went through this with you? So a guy I grew up with, he super academic family, and everybody had went on to particular universities and all these different schools and all that. And he get frog marched into that lifestyle, and he was halfway through doing accountancy or something like that. And he was just dead inside because you'd never seen him with long trousers on, ever. He was always in a pair of shorts, and he played cricket, he played rugby, he played football, sometimes went to American football with me and everything like that, and had to go home to his mum and dad and go, I'm leaving and I'm going to do sports science at Loughborough. And that's when, so I would go down sort of maybe once every couple of years and stuff to go down and visit him and go down there. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, I think we lost him to there because he ended up, he was kind of an international field hockey player, and that's kind of the world he went down. But it was amazing. But again, you got there in no regular clothes. You know, I would go down as hairdresser Ricardo, and everybody was in a trackie and t-shirts and all that. Did you ever go down and visit it, or
nah,
just it was just
then fourth year happened, and then I did my work experience, and then it all changed.
Right, so that's my fault. Right, okay, okay. So yes, let's discuss. That was the reason why I asked third year, because again, the thing is, I'm ahead of some of these questions, obviously, because fourth year comes around, and you do work experience at the one and only 125 Buchanan Street, up the stairs. Why there? Why then?
Because it was one of the things on the boards. It was like those big boards. You know, you would go into the PE hall, or the what's the big hall called in school? Like a big assembly hall, right? And there's boards up on the wall, and you've got wee cards. And
the caveat to this is we never got to do work experience because my school was too mental that they wouldn't send us out. They wouldn't send us out into the wild at all. And it probably hadn't been invented by that point. So the irony that I get put in charge of the work experience kids never having been on work experience, but my pals' school all got to do it, but I never got. So when you're saying these things about going in to choose these things, my entire careers class was a Rolodex that just had, you know, what exams you had to pass if you wanted to be an accountant or fly a plane or anything like that. It was just like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Not sell chips was the answer, you know.
No, we just had boards and boards, and it was, you know, wee old-fashioned record cards, and it was, you know, the name of the employer, the type of job, where it was, and you would just go and pick one off, and you took it to your guidance teacher, and you're like, I want to do that one, and that was it. It was literally that basic. And me and a girl, Joni, we did quite a lot of sport together. There was nothing really sporty, and we had loads of opportunity to do sport at school. We finished at 12 on a Friday, and like our last hour of school was just a random, you know, you could go and play hockey or netball, or you could go ice skating. Actually, in the St Enoch Centre, we used to go ice skating in the skating rink in the original St Enoch Centre. So there was nothing really sporty, and Joni was like, oh, hairdressing looks like fun. And I'm like, aye, do you know what? That looks like it's going to be a pure sky from school, and it's going to be dead easy. And basically, that's the God's honest truth. It was hilarious. Well, if I can't do something sporty, then what can I do to just skive school for a week? And it's in the town, so I'll pick that.
That's it.
And that was it. So pure chance.
It's the fluke of the century. So, if I'm remembering rightly, back in the day, we used to sometimes take about 4 a week, but was it just you and your pal?
Just me and my pal.
Right, it was the two of you then. So, having not come in with any interest in it, having never thought about it, what was your journey in the 5 days of being in Buchanan Street?
So, I remember walking in and being terrified. What a salon, the noise, the buzz, the people. I mean, and that salon in 96. It was rammed. There was a stylist, 2 stylists, 3 stylists at every single set of the 5 sections in Buchanan Street. There was maybe 12 assistants. I mean, it was jumping, and it was so overwhelming, but I loved it. I loved the noise and the smell, and I loved just meeting everybody, and I just loved watching. I loved seeing what was going on and seeing something happen from start to finish, and there was just so many personalities, and I was just blown away. I was absolutely mesmerised. Yeah,
I mean, 96, I always when I romanticise about the history of Rainbow Room, and I talk about that period of probably 94 to 98, where I'll argue that there wasn't a busier place on planet Earth at that time than Buchanan Street. And we're discussing this, and we're doing these in May 2025, and right now Scotland's weirdly been warm for 3 weeks. We've not seen rain, we've not seen a cloud. It's been absolutely, the weather's been glorious. And all I think back to is that we didn't have air conditioning then.
Aye. Had the
And I
windows open.
cannot get my head around the idea that we had 25 sections full of people, folk waiting with their colour developing, you know, as you say rightly, 12 stylists, probably 12 assistants, bodies everywhere. And we must have been absolutely sweltering. I can't imagine it. And it's not as if we didn't really have fancy hairdryers with cool shots. You know, there was none of that.
Nah.
You know, cooling ourselves
And then we had
down.
this was, you know, if we fast forward a wee bit, they dark blue shiatsu
Yeah.
team shirts.
Ah, they weighed a ton.
They were a ton.
They weighed a ton. Aye, I mean, I can never get my head around that. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, well, my mob moaning about being warm this week, and you're going, you kidding?
No idea.
No idea. So, did you decide? Because obviously it's a massive shift.
So I did my work experience Monday to Friday, loved it, was just I'm like excited to come in the next day and see what else was going to happen. Because it was just constant. There was just people and like just so much stuff happening. And then, so that was the Monday to Friday. And it was Big Stephen McGeorge. And he'd said, do you want a Saturday job? And I was like, aye. Aye. Yeah. So so I got a Saturday job, and then the girl that was supposed to be in on the Sunday, I'm sure I'd phoned in sick, so I ended up doing the Sunday as well. Then went back to school on the Monday, and I'm like, oh, I'm dead sad. Like, I'm really bored. Like, okay, like, and I just got on, you know, got back into school, was working the Saturdays, working the Sundays, and within a couple of weeks, I mean, I was colouring on clients within a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So had you done, were you in fourth year at this point?
I was in fourth year, I was 15.
Right. So you were getting ready to finish. So was it standard grades for you
Aye,
at that
yeah,
point?
so I was, you know, 6 months out from sitting standard grades.
Right. Okay, so that's a massive change in the idea that it kind of, it's a bit light bulby.
Yeah, like I'm like, you know, I don't want to. I don't know if I'm ready. I hadn't quite yet made the decision, you know, immediately that, oh, this is what I'm going to do. But I was offered the Saturday job, and I'm like, yes, because I wasn't ready to just not go back. I'm like, oh, that was great fun, and I don't want it to be ended yet. So went back to school, and I was busy in school as well because I was in the volleyball team, I was in the netball team. I did quite a lot of running. We had an exchange trip to Finland, this 5-day walking exchange trip booked to Finland. So there was I had all these commitments and things to look forward to, and but I was still just working on a Saturday, and I worked at the Christmas holidays, and just any wee minute that I could get to get back in the salon. I'd come in on a Thursday night, and, you know, it was brilliant fun.
Yeah, because the flexibility then, I mean, obviously, we were so busy, and we were always needing hands on deck. And
I was coming in for free.
Aye.
Like, there was, like, I thought, like, I would but just because I'm like, oh, it's busy, and, like, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
I wanted to help.
It was unique, you know, and all now completely illegal.
Oh, I completely.
Aye, so through no fault of the generation that we have now, everybody constantly goes, oh, kids aren't the same anymore. It's not that. The rules of the game have changed so much that we can't treat them the same as the kids back in the day, to their detriment. It's not fair on them that we're not allowed to do the things we did with them, and there isn't a business that can afford to do that, but that's a whole other year of podcasting to figure that out. So when does the shift start to happen that this could actually become a thing?
So I think, like, I was one of these people that annoyingly could just watch something and do it. You know, like, I would watch something, I would watch somebody do something, and I'd be like, oh, I've got to have a bash at that. And then I would go and I would pick up a tail comb and some foil, and I would practice. And I mean, not that we actually had an awful lot of time to practice when you were working in the salon. No. Genuinely, I remember it was Big Steve, and he's like, right, I'm going to go and do a tint regrowth and just copy me and watch. I mean, you couldn't get away with that now, you know, insurance and blah, blah, blah. Again, you know, that's a whole other conversation, but he's like, right, just come and watch me. You do this back section and just copy me. Just do what I do. And then obviously he went and cross-checked it and made sure that there was no gaps and no bits I'd missed or whatever. But I was like, I just coloured a client. I've been here for 2 weeks. I'm a Saturday girl. I'm 15 years old. What is going on? This is great fun. And it was great for, like, I had confidence when I was playing sport, but not really actually in any other aspects of my life. I don't think I put on a bit of a front, and the sports allowed me to be confident. And then coming into hairdressing and picking things up and picking them up to a pretty reasonable standard pretty quickly. I'm by any means not the best, even close to being the best hairdresser in that company. Never have been and never will be. But what I will do is I will keep going until I'm close to it. But yeah, I just would watch things and go, I'm going to try that. And how do I do that?
It's interesting you talk about that from a self-confidence perspective, that, you know, obviously when you're going on to the field or the pitch or the court or whatever, you're going on with a game face, and you've got to portray that level of confidence so that your opposition know, oh, we're getting a game here. Whereas obviously we've got stage door written above the staff room doors, and we're putting on that persona, not to instill confidence in the client that A, we know what we're doing, and B, we're an expert at it, and we're also happy to be doing it. So it's really interesting that, but also the idea that, and I found that very much contrary to what people actually think of me, that hairdressing, Ricardo, that person I invented to be that guy, flourished on that floor and was invented on that floor, and it let you get rid of all of your insecurities and all the stuff. You're just a kid, you know, you're a young person, and listen, still got them now, but it was great that you could, you know, and whether that was how you dressed or whatever you put on, or, you know, my day it was the white shiatsu shirt, and then you progressed into the black one, and then you get hit with the awful blue ones. Don't know why he did that, but anyway.
I know, with the turquoise.
We'll ask him about that. He did like that colour. That colour reappeared quite a few times. I'll give him that. But
do you know what I found really really useful? It took years for me to figure it out, but obviously, you know, like stage name, I know you covered that with Coco because she was the first. Yeah. She was the first salon name. So it took me a while to sort of figure out that, like, when I walked in, that it was a real benefit, that when I turn up at that salon, I'm Leigh, and I deliver, and that is my persona, and that is what you're getting, and that is being delivered. And then when I stepped out, and then when I was away for the weekend with my pals, or away with my partner, then I'm back to being Laura. And now we've kind of double-barreled the whole situation, like
just to make it easy. But, there's 1,000 reasons why you need to do that. That's really interesting. The idea that, you know, whether it's an outfit or putting the RRI badge on, or, you know, Alan always talks about that, you know, in the morning, the last thing, and you make sure the badge was on, and right, I'm ready to go and do my thing. And I've never looked at it from the name,
but for
perspective
me it was the name
as well. That's really strong, and that, right, I'm now that guy. And we've talked about it with Adrian, talked about it as well, about the idea of changing hats between being hairdresser or manager or mentor and all that kind of stuff, but literally being, that's me at home, and I'm Laura to now that. The other side note is that we're actually filming this in a building in Paisley called the Kerr building. So to have Leigh Laura Kerr in the building, it's a perfect circle. So yeah, so you've started doing all of that on the floor, and you've then obviously the decision that must have went, right, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, so at that point, like, you were you know, you were mentoring me, I was working with you over like your weekends and any holidays, so I was in during the week, and it's like, you know, what are you going to do? Like, you know, are you staying on at school? And that was a conversation that was had with loads of kids. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Well, I mean, I'd planned to, but, you know, this is fun, and I feel I fit in, and I'm naturally good at it, and I feel like I found my people, and I wasn't really having to pretend. Like, being 15, 16 at school, it is tough.
Yeah.
I enjoyed school. I was
Yeah.
good at school. I loved the sports, but it is tough. And I wouldn't go back to it if you paid me.
No, me
10
neither.
million
No,
pounds.
no. Even to have a full head of hair, I wouldn't take it.
Nah.
You know, no chance.
I wasn't desperate to leave school because I knew my plan was to do my hires and then to go university. And then I just fell into hairdressing and wasn't even close to prepared to give it up. So had that conversation with my mother, and that went down like a lead balloon.
So did I. I've never really quite recovered. I've had 2 parental conversations with that over the year, with your mum and Joy's mum. I've never really recovered from both of them, but I state my case, of which I'm certain I got it right. Aye, so it was that. It was just like, I'm straight A's and I'm going to uni, and your mum's like, no chance. You're not getting to do it.
So both sets of grandparents were in higher education. I was the oldest grandchild on one side and one of the oldest on the other side. And I think, did I leave school before my cousin? I can't remember. But yeah, basically both sets of grandparents were like, are you having a laugh?
Yeah.
And my mum and my dad were like, I mean, this isn't a good idea. This is a terrible idea. Also, a godmother as well.
Were they both like that? Because I always wondered whether was your dad maybe a bit softer on
my
the
dad
idea.
was definitely a bit softer. He was definitely a bit more, if that's our dream, let her do it.
Yeah.
And my mum's like, we'll have words later. We will talk about this in private.
and out of the 2, was your dad more of the creative in the house than your mum? Yeah.
Aye. My dad's a right good West End hippie.
So that's exactly, kind of thinking back at that point, I thought, well, she's probably getting, there's all that daddy's girl thing as well, right? But she's probably getting that wee bit more support there, whereas this is a full-on red card.
It absolutely very much was a, honestly, Laura, this is a conversation you need to have with your mum. Like,
did he give it one of them with pass the buck?
Yeah,
did he?
basically.
Genius.
Yep.
Genius,
Basically,
proper parental fathering going on.
Yeah,
there,
so I even got, so my, we were never christened or baptised, but we had, the mum and dad's best friends that were your auntie and your uncle or your godparents, but they were never official, never by blood. So Rose sent me a letter. I've actually still got it. I found it recently, and it was this 4 or 5 page letter. Now, her dad had a chain of salons down in Swansea, and Rose's dad knew Alan from years and years ago. I don't know if they'd been at a show together or
right.
But Rose had went more into the beauty side, and I remember being little and going down to Swansea and staying with them and staying in the house with our godparents, and we would have to go to the salon every now and again, and being wee and walking into the salon, and a lot of salons sold wigs as well. So there was wigs in the windows, and the girls would come and take me and my wee sister, and they would just pleat her hair or just like pretend to put a bit of blusher on, and we just loved it. Loved going down and like
implanted early. That's really interesting.
So Rose worked for Clarins, I'm sure it was. She didn't go into the hairdressing side, she went more into the beauty and the makeup and worked for Clarins. So my first makeup sets as a wee girl were Clarins. It was all those wee testers that would come off the concession stands and what have you. So we were given so I was wearing the best of makeup from 5 or 6. I had better makeup in my kit than my mum did.
Which is now why you've completely addicted to the highest price makeup all the time.
Yeah, aye. Because I mean, that was what was instilled in you.
Oh, it's so funny.
5, 6 years old.
I'm amazed. It constantly comes through in talking to everybody. One of the things you said about finding your gang was very much John's thing. Like coming from Coatbridge and being John, basically, and maybe not finding his people and then getting into hairdressing, but really finding his people when he came to Rainbow Room. And certainly I was like that as a punter, sitting in the shop and just going, right, great, because I came from a wealth of dafties, right? I mean, brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles, and everybody was mental. So whenever you went anywhere normal, you just felt super weird. whereas all of a sudden you were sitting in this salon going, right, they're all daft too. This is going to be okay. So I think that's really important, but also just that idea that these wee nuggets of a hint of what could be have been implanted in you, you know, from that really, really early age. So you started at the end of fourth year then? So did you do your standard?
So I remember I finished my last exam, and it was a German speaking exam, and that was the last exam, and I just walked out of school, finished the exam. I didn't really particularly like German either. And I got back on the subway, and I got off at Buchanan Street, and I walked down Buchanan Street, and I went back into the cell, and that was it. I never left.
That's hilarious. So literally the day you just came in.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So, being an assistant and kind of working in the salon, because we're going to clear up a bit of factual information that Alan doesn't believe at one point. We'll go back to that infamous meeting you had with the then head of training and Alan in the office that he denies, but we'll go back over that. How was your training?
Loved it.
Yeah. How did you find it?
Loved it. It was. We went over to the top floor of. In fact, when I very first started, the training was still in 15.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So, and Will, I'm sure at that point. So I had Will, Sam for a while, Luke Walton.
Is that Monday nights? Did you do Monday nights or did you do all day Wednesday?
No, it was days. But it was a half day, and then you get promoted to a full day.
Right.
So you get a half day training, and then when you became a senior assistant, that was increased to a full day.
That's because you couldn't get maniacs like me that paid for their training to do the whole day. So that's why you obviously changed that system.
Yeah, but when I very, very first started, it was in 15 downstairs. Not for long, but I do remember being in the building. And then we were over the road, Royal Exchange Square, up the stairs, and it was strict. It was so strict. But we did so much in the salon as well. Like a lot of the training was going through, because by this point now it was the SAM folders. So by this point now, then you're going through a process and a book of these are all the things that need to be done.
And were you doing theory in the morning up to a point and getting that marked off, and then Oh
no, I think we had so many models, and because there was a lot of models coming in, so we didn't always have to find models ourselves. So no, I think we kind of that was the idea, that was the plan, but it didn't always go to plan.
No,
it's fine. It was brilliant. I loved it. I really loved it. I loved having the different teachers. And again, at first, it took a while, because you're going, oh, well, they've taught me that way, so that must be right. And then they've taught me that way, so that must be right. And then that person say, you're not doing it the way I taught you last week. And you're like, well, that's because that person's taught me that way. And then you've got that moment of, no, that's fine. You know, there's 20 ways to cut a bob. You'll pick that one for that client and that one for that client. You use a bit of this and a bit of that. That just takes a while to click in. I found that quite difficult, because I wanted act, and I wanted to do good.
Of course.
Like I think I needed that as well. I needed that affirmation.
Of course.
I suppose.
Of course. And I suppose
because I needed it as well, because I'm like, I need to prove my mum wrong.
Oh, aye. Yeah.
Like, no matter what.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, you'd taken this leap of faith, and you'd taken that jump. So the motivation was ginormous to make sure that happened. What's really interesting with that as well, and it's not until you kind of air these things out, is the idea that, of course, they're going to tell you a different way to do it, because it's a different person. I've got a different head, I've got different hair, I've got different bone structure, I've got different face shape. You know, the idea that we do this one size fits all haircut, you know, we never ever did them, but it was always really difficult. And certainly, you know, from my role at that point as either mentor or educator or whatever, was you would be raging. I told you to hold the section like that, I told you to hold the comb like that, now you're doing that. And that took me a long time to get that out of my, there's loads of ways of doing it, but do me a favour, just to be able to pass it, going to just do it that way today. But it's back to the same ethos that we always talk about, is the right thing and the right person for the right reason. So that's sort of fascinating. Kind of, but halfway through, did you have a kind of wee rocky period? Did you have a wee bit where you kind of found it a bit tricky? Or
Yeah, I think I did. I think actually I was really getting pushed to qualify, and I had a bit of a wobble because there was quite a few assistants that had a wee bit more history than me. They'd been about for a bit longer.
Yeah.
They were maybe a wee bit older, and I was quite young. And really hadn't been there that long, but was flying through it.
Yeah.
And so was my friend Ray, and I found that difficult because I didn't want to overtake them. In hindsight, that wasn't a me problem.
No. No, it's got nothing to do with you. No, and how many times now, obviously in your role now, that we spend so much time with the youngsters going, stop worrying about everybody else. You know,
it's a daily conversation.
Hopefully some of them will be with you in 20 years' time when you have, or 30 years' time, or 40 years' time, and have the relationships that we have, but the majority won't. But unless you stick to your philosophy and your guns and work as hard as you're doing, then, well, either they come with you or they don't come with you.
And that's like, I could see how raging some of them were, that that it was quite clear that I was going to end up on the floor before them. And I had a wobble, and I'm like in the office crying at Alan. I'm like, please, like I'm not ready. Like, don't make me do it. And he held me off for an extra couple of months, and then he was like, nah.
Well, I always have this thing with him and the then teacher going, she's not going to make it, and it's not happening. And obviously at that point you were with me and all that, and I'm going, over my dead body, that's not happening. Right? He will sit back there, look you straight in the face and deny this, right? And because I remember you coming out of the meeting and just being upset and all that, and I'm like, it's not happening. But the issue with that was there an issue with your hearing? Was there something about the way that somebody was talking to you and you'd be able to hear them properly, or am I just making that? I'm making that up maybe? It's probably somebody else. But I just always remember that sort of period really well, and then you coming out of there and coming out of that period, and then quite frankly you just went, and just,
right, let's go.
We're doing this, and we're rocketing through. So when did you go on the floor then?
I was 17.
Right. I mean, it is mental. And
my pals were still in school.
It was mental. You know that way? And you were the start of a whole...
And a lot of them didn't even have Saturday jobs.
You were the start of a whole generation that, I mean, we called you babies. I mean, we did call you babies because it was getting to the point where Alan's going, we're actually getting too good at this. That's when he started to get scared, because, you know, we're going, you know, we're putting these kids on the floor, and but the thing was, you were all brilliant, and you were all better than the competition.
And we were trained by the best.
The thing that was really, I think, an issue was, and it's funny because I'm in the same situation now where I am, in that if somebody qualifies on my floor, they're now the dearest haircut in my area out with the rest of the people in the room, and they're now probably about 19 by the time we get them through everything now. And even at that, you're going, pressure's on. Whereas, I mean, can you remember what your cut price was when you started? I mean, I was 16 quid.
I think the number 29 rings a bell, but I think it might have been more than that.
Yeah.
No, not much.
Wouldn't have been much. It wouldn't have been much. You would have been round about that, because think about, you know, the price that standby's been 30 quid forever, and it's just went up to 33. So you would have probably...
I think I've actually still got a box up in a big cupboard, and it's things like, you know, your assistant badges, and I think I've got like a price list from when I went on the floor.
Brilliant. Oh, that would be amazing to bring that out. But that was the thing, because we were sitting going, they're going to be, so let's just say 26 quid, right? At 17, going on the floor, and you're like, there's nobody else in the city that's qualifying people that well, that early. But what were we meant to do with you? you know, that way there was no, we couldn't hold you back. We couldn't not let you have the opportunity. We had to get you on the floor because at that point, you know, obviously we were sitting going, well, we don't want to lose it anywhere else. There was no room. I mean, that was, Adrian touched on the idea that we started early birds and late nights and having to spread appointments to try and get these things open on Sundays and trying to make the booking opportunities bigger so that we had all these opportunities to get you guys in. But there was certainly a core group. You've mentioned yourself and Ray, and then the sort of team that came after that for about the next 5 or 6 years.
I've actually got a secret. I've just remembered something from when I was an assistant and when I was really struggling. I went for an interview somewhere else.
Did you? Did you go? Yeah.
I went for an interview in Rita Rusk's.
Did you go to Rusk? Did you?
And it was when the one in Great Western Road, the West End, had opened.
Right.
And I'd walked past, and I don't know if it was a day off or whatever, or I'd finished, I can't remember. Anyway, I walked past and I went in, stuck my head in the door, and they called me back in for an interview, and I went in for the interview, and they were like, when can you start?
Wow.
Literally, when can you start?
Yeah.
And then I went home and I'm like, Mum, you need to phone them and tell them I'm not taking it. I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It was an absolute moment of madness. And I think I just was like a wee bit nosy. I'm like, oh, what else is out there, right? And I walked in the salon and I looked about and I had the interview and I was just like, oh no. Oh, these are not my people.
I think
this is not.
No.
This is mental. Yeah. Like, get back up the road.
But that's really important because we're obviously getting to the generation of people like yourself and, you know, that have only worked for the brand, which is...
I have had no other job.
It's alien then. It's even more alien now that people have stayed with. I mean, it's a bit like footballers that stay with one team. You know, you can count them in your hand. But it's the same, obviously, with hairdressers, you know, that if they've not had multiple salons. So for you not to experience that, I used to struggle with interviews and doing interviews because, again, like you, I had one interview in my whole life, and that was
I never even had an interview.
No, it's just like
experience.
Get your shirt on.
Colours on. It's like, right, you want to start tomorrow?
So I did a thing.
There's a T-shirt.
I spoke to Alan and went, listen, I'm going to go around these other salons, kidding on, I'm coming for a job just to see. Kind of, you know, just to find out what were they offering, what was their starting salaries, you know, to make sure we were still either ahead of the game or doing the same thing. And the exact same thing as you. I was sat down and it was, hi Ricardo, when can you start? And I'm like, well, that's no why I'm you know, well, what's your wage structure? Oh, don't worry about that. And we want to get. So I found out nothing, but I made sure Alan knew first because I didn't want the jungle drums going that I'd been into Tony and Guy and Sassoons and I'd been round to Rusks and all that kind of stuff. Because
I know, because there wasn't very many Ricardo Corvys talking about Glasgow City Centre, was
there? I am that guy. So, you know, he'd have absolutely murdered me. But
and he would have found out.
Oh no, he probably knew before I told him. He probably, knowing Alan, or I'd have told him anyway. But so you get on the floor.
So I'm 17, yeah.
So what year's that then? So what's that? Is that 8 or 9?
So the market experience 96, started 97, 90. Must have been 98, 99.
Yeah, right. Wow. But Canstray's still mental and bouncing.
I'm going to say probably 98. Well,
you qualified and I probably just about lost my mind at that point.
Because it took me, I remember it taking me a year and 4 months, right? And that was from when I started as an apprentice, right? No, but remember we only did a level 2 back then, right? Remember, so about a year for a level 2, right? But I remember I was the fastest qualifying assistant to date, right? Then, so you did your level 2. That was like your half-day release for the first part, and then when you'd passed and you were just doing your colour and you had your perming or whatever, so when you were just doing cutting, colouring and perming, then you were allowed the extra half-day. But the last 3 months was in Fame Academy full-time. 3 months, non-negotiable, 120 models a month, 3 perms, 60 retail, 20 style dries, 60 requests, 80 requests.
So did you have, but retail was still full figures? Everything else was brought down, but retail was still the same?
60.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting, the idea that we've made that such an easier target now and we've never hit the numbers again? That's maybe something to to go, what next? That's
Good.
interesting.
3 months, hit the number on the floor.
Yeah.
That was it, done.
Yeah. Mental. And then off that, I mean, most people, when we started off at Buchanan Street, pretty much hit the ground running because we were batting clients out the door half the time. So did you find that?
I remember it's that funny transition, isn't it, where you go from like primary 7, so you're like the big girl, right? And then you start in first year and you're like, oh my God, I'm the weeest one, right? And then you're like 4th year and you're one of the bigger ones again, right? And that same thing happens through your apprenticeship. You're like, oh, I'm the Saturday girl. Oh, I'm an assistant. Oh, I'm a senior assistant.
Yeah.
I'm Ricardo's assistant.
Yeah.
I'm like this. And then you're in Fame Academy, and then you have to come back in the youngest stylist on the floor in Buchanan Street, and you're like hiding in the toilet, greeting, thinking, I can't go out there and do this. Like, this is horrendous. Yeah. And then very quickly you realise they are far too busy to be looking at what
Nobody's
I'm up
looking.
to.
Nobody's looking, except the big man would be looking.
Aye.
Aye,
because that bottom section he could see from his office.
Yeah, but even if he was at the top section, it was that my continual story with Buchanan Street is that thing of being at the 5th section as the new guy and having to walk past 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
and
yeah. Like the walk of shame.
Oh, and who you were walking past, the standard of hairdressing, the standard of client.
Aye.
And whether they were too busy or not, they were still looking. And then if Alan was there, and obviously he's got one ear on his client and the other ear's making sure that you're retailing at that point, and and he's checking the haircut out and he's having a right good look, and that's some walk. I'm sure to this day.
Aye, but remember by this point though, right? He was only doing a couple of days on the floor.
Was he only 3 days by that point?
Maybe even 2, right?
Yeah.
And by this point, he was only cutting his clients. Yeah. Right? So once he had Ray as his assistant and sussed out, hold on a minute, right? I can have Ray do everything from my consultation, my colour, my blow dry, right? So he would just stand and cut, and then he would just wander about chatting to people.
Nobody believes me about the consultation thing. Nobody ever believes me that it was like this. So
he did it as a bet, did he not? I'm sure it was a bet.
Alan invented triage nursing before it was a thing. Right? Basically invented that thing where you get to see the kid on nurse before you get into the accident emergency, right? Alan did that as a kind of time thing because I got to do it for Linda. So I think there was an assistant called Barbara, and he lost Barbara because he didn't get her on the floor in time. She was one of these ones that really started, and she could do it all already. And so same thing, we used to do I would do them for Linda because the client would go, oh, I'm here to see Linda. Be like, we know that. I'm just finding out how your colour was, and getting to practice and role play all of that thing, which again did really accelerate our learning without a doubt. So you're talking.
But it was that immediate communication skills as well, wasn't it? Like
unbelievable. So fast forward the 7 years, and you and Ray probably doing it for me, doing it for Alan, doing it for Linda and all that kind of stuff, and that was still going on. But people do not believe that, and nor does he quite remember how little of his colour. If you got your fringe done and you get your fringe blow dried, quite frankly, you'd done quite well. But
he always managed to come over at that. He timed it perfectly, and it was the last brush. And you would be raging. You're like, I've done all this work and you're not even letting me finish that last section.
I call that doing an Alan, and I catch myself. I very rarely do it, right? But I'll catch myself going to do it, right? And the joke now I do with my clients is go, listen, she's done it better than I'm going to do it anyway, so I'm going to let her finish the section, and then I'll go back in and do my thing, right? But not so that you don't take that sense of achievement away from it, right? But he timed it to perfection. But we knew that's what he was doing because he knew that the client was only remembering the first bit and the last bit. They weren't remembering the bit in the middle, and he was cutting the other clients here, So he did walk, when he gives us into trouble for doing too much in a service, he did walk the talk. That is how we did it. And he got zero blowback from his clients. Cause
I think they'll remember because he had cut down, right? So he'd gone from his 5 to his 3, and then he was pushing from 3, and he knew that he was going to try and be like, so I think also he's going, well, if I'm not doing it all, these clients, if they want somebody to do it all, I'm not the person. They can
course
go
he
to
was. Oh,
Linda
he
or
was
Pam or you or...
preempting that.
Oh, aye.
Absolutely. He was
He had
basically,
that.
he was dealing the cards out of who was going to get everybody, and then I'm out of here kind of thing. Not that he told them that that's what he was
No.
going to do, but that's another classic. When's he coming back? Never. No, he's never coming back. Yes, he's coming back. Never. That was another one that was left to me to deal with, which was a classic. To which I still have clients of my own from that very period that still come down. I can't believe they come to here, and I used to wash their hair, which is always a mind bender. So you hit the ground. So were you one of the sort of group that did their first promotion the first year?
Oh, aye. Yeah, just started rattling through some promotions, and I loved it. I loved being a stylist on the floor.
So at what time level, where were you at? Because again, there's a vague memory, which I remember because I wasn't good enough to be a teacher at the academy. They never gave me that job. But needless to say, when he chucked everybody out and stopped it and went, right, the training's coming back to the salons, surprisingly enough, I was good enough then to be in charge of it. So had you qualified by that point, or was that at the tail end of your time? Did you do some of the night classes?
So,
go back to Wednesday night in B Street?
So what happened? So the night classes then came out of Fame Academy.
Yeah.
Fame Academy was its own thing. So you
That's
went
right.
to Fame Academy as your graduation process.
Yeah.
But training was happening in the salons.
But were you a stylist by then?
I was brand spanking new.
So the thing with that was everybody that was sort of my team and younger, my whole thing was about everybody staying and creating a team culture of everybody does.
Yeah.
If you're using an assistant and you're getting the pleasure of that, well, quite frankly, you need to stay. And by that point, there was probably only about maybe 4 or 5 stylists that were, in inverted commas, higher than me or had been there longer or whatever. So the culture I always wanted was this idea that we all do the training, we all stay together doing that. So pretty much from day dot, then yourself and Ray were part of that team to help me doing those nights and building that ethos.
But even as it actually went on before that. So when we were assistants, then the next runs of work experience were coming through, and the Saturday girls were coming through, and we just kind of gravitated to being like, oh, come on, we'll show you, right? And also we're like, well, if we can show them this, then we get to do the more fun stuff. I want to be colouring. I want to be doing that big blow dry. I don't want to be shiatsuing and rinsing colours off, and I certainly don't want to be utilising that perm.
Counting perm rods and talcum powder.
Perm rods, right? So I'm like, hold on a minute, right? Let's work smart here. So if I can train these younger ones up pronto to do these other jobs, then we get to do the fun stuff, right?
Brilliant.
So that was basically kind of how it started.
So then obviously the Sunday Club is massive. Had you and Ray qualified by that point, or were you still assistants at that point? I'm a bit
I would have to ask Ray, actually. I think
murky on
that's
that
a Ray
timeline.
question.
I think you're right on the...
Yeah, I think it's right on the cusp.
Yeah.
Because basically what was happening was we were getting so many work experience.
But the two of yous were there, so you wouldn't have been at Fame Academy and you'd have been back.
There was
so you must have been qualified, but only just, because it's all the same timeline, because the training came back to the salon, and quite rightly, as you said, we were, not being funny, we were just too good at it, because we were producing like every Saturday at the end of that week at work experience, some kid would go, can I get a job? And you're looking around going, where are we going to put them? Right? But they were,
and we were qualifying loads of people. There was loads of people qualifying
as well.
So we were like, well, how do we get them ready, or or the Saturday girls that we already had, when do we have time to train them, right? Or how do we, if we want them to be, shiatsuing and putting treatments on, and when are we going to have time to train them? So then we were like, well, let's do one Sunday a month, and we get them in, and it wasn't it wasn't mandatory, right?
No.
But you didn't not show up. Like everybody, they all came. And Joy is one of the original Sunday Club.
But was she not even a did she not come before it was even she was a Saturday kid? Or she came, because all of a sudden we're getting letters in for 14-year-olds. And I think by then you couldn't have them on, they couldn't really be working. But it was this idea that, well, how do we include them in the thing?
Yeah.
And it wasn't hours long, sure it was.
Nah.
I can't remember it being an hour or something like that.
It was a couple hours because like we were doing foils and stuff, like so like it did
we would do
progress.
like
So
a
there
panel,
was,
didn't we? Do that kind of thing. So so I mean that's the thing, the idea that you know, and obviously when we get to do all the sort of top stylists that have been with the company for a long time, we introduce joy to everybody. You know, the idea that that was a product from that time makes every one of those Sundays worth it and then some. And I think that's the thing that we maybe get a bit caught up in as either educators or salon owners or whatever, is the idea that we sometimes focus on the ones that got away and the ones that could have been, or the amount of people we've had to go through to get the ones that we've got. But every single one of those people are worth it, and worth it tenfold, you know, so all that time was worth it. So obviously then, right, so you're knee deep, you're in the trenches, you're in Buchanan Street, you're doing that, and then the transition is to then basically doing the training nights with all of us and working that through. So I'm kind of getting ready for the off, kind of 2000, and basically I kind of came out of my slumber, let's say, about 2002, and Alan had started talking to me again about, right, what we doing, and, you know, kind of at that time I'd still had the romance of being in the city centre. Then he spoke about Ireland, and then, you know, we got the chance in 2004 to go to Ayr. So at that point, you'd been really doing tons of training, and, you know, we're getting really sort of passionate about that.
No, I was just quite good at it. I was quite good at it. I enjoyed these sort of younger people passing on that knowledge, and then these younger people just doing really well in the salon, and then them becoming somebody's assistant. So I enjoyed it, but I wanted a franchise. I was waiting for you to leave so I could get Buchanan Street. Like that was what I wanted.
So see so what's really interesting at that point as well was just that ethos of the idea of handing down. You know, somebody told me how to do it, so it's my job. That's all I ever thought was, like, I walked in there, all the other stuff. You don't need to teach me how to talk to somebody. You don't need to teach me the stagey bit to a certain extent, right? But everything else, right, from the minute you had to put a comb through somebody's hair, somebody stayed back and taught me how to do that, and they either did it during the day on their day off, or they stayed back on a Monday night and taught me how to do that. So my thing was, my ethos, like my whole karma with that was, it's my job to stay back, whether I'm getting paid for it, whether I'm not getting paid for it, to do that for somebody else. And the idea that then that was instilled into you guys, and then that stayed with you to the next stage is massive, because, you know, first, I think we've lost that a wee bit, again, through no fault of anybody's. It's been taken away from us for all the different reasons, and it's a hard one. I always hear Alan Austin Smith going, so what are you going to do about it? All right, it's like, well, that's the rules of the game now. What are you going to do about it? And I feel that was taken away. So it's cracking. You know, it's really great to hear you. You know, that ethos went through you in that way. So at that point, you're like, right, get out, because I want.
Yeah, I wanted a franchise. That was what I saw happening. I saw that John had his franchise, Adrian had his franchise. I remember Cassie was a young stylist, brand new qualified when I was an assistant. And I remember blow drying her hair on a Saturday. I was a Saturday girl. She would get me to blow dry her hair. Do you remember those like big 90s flicky out layers? And I'm like, precision. Before a bouncy blow dry, you wrap the hair around the brush. So
that was flicks.
So Adrian had his franchise. John was opening Great Western Road, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is a thing. Yeah. Like, Ricardo's talking about getting a franchise. You were talking to your clients about, like, and I'm like, oh, well, I want a franchise. That is what I want. I want my own salon. And I was always vocal about it to Alan, but he obviously, and you as well, obviously saw that I was good at training. I did it because I enjoyed it, and I did it because I saw these sort of young girls coming through and being really good at it, and I'm just a bit OCD. I just like things done the same way. I'm like, if this is the way I've been taught, if that's how you put in a foil, that's how you put in a foil. If that's how you do a tint, that's how you do a tint. There's certain things This is how we
That's a
shiatsu.
standard.
This is the standard. This is what you do.
Yeah.
And I found that dead easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did it and carried on doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Then Alan took me to Ireland.
Right.
He took me to go to William McElroy's place.
Right.
So again, he was like, right, you're going to have to make a choice. Like, this, what do you want? So I'm going to take you to a training academy, and you're going to see it like from the bones up, right? So me and Alan and Gus went over to Ireland, and we spent a couple of days with William and with his assessment team, and at the different salons and the different studios and the different training rooms. And I just sat and lived it and breathed it for a couple of days, and then we get back in the flight, and he dropped me back off up the road, and he's like, what do you think? He's like, do you think you can do it? And I went, aye.
Yeah.
I went, let's go.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's do it.
Right.
And then, I can't remember what date we went over to Ireland, but basically was handed a set of keys for 70 Howard Street, round about my 21st birthday.
Yeah. Oh, insane. I mean, absolutely. But it's always that great thing with Alan, and that it was never about age with Alan. It was the right person that was good enough. You know, he always empowered from the youth up, the opportunities that he gave the youngest people in the building, because quite frankly, the ones that were older had got too set in their ways, didn't want to change, or got a bit of a, well, I'm above all that, and didn't see the opportunities. And he was always, I mean, he explained that himself about how he turned stirrups round, and that ethos had never left him. So to take one of the youngest stylists at the time out of that building and put them into that scenario with all of the structures that would need to be put in place at that time, which weren't, because again, it's not as if you were taking over from 24 and that day class thing was set up and
it was a separate thing. It was a totally separate thing.
Completely
we
new
were
thing.
We were doing all of the paperwork was happening in the salon at night classes, and me and Ray had kind of we just sort of gravitated towards it, but there was also like me and Ray were always
rewind. Let's tell the truth here. The reason that you two gravitated towards the paperwork is because I was ranked damn awful at it. Every minute of it. I'll teach you how to do a haircut. I'll show you how to put foils in. I'll show you how to do everything else. But do not give me a folder, because I do not want to see it. I can't even remember. What was the assessor's thing? A D32?
D32, D33.
Even that still makes me slightly sick in the mouth. Do you know that?
So I think we got our D32, D33. I think we were maybe 19.
No, you were children. It was the one that was always really funny when we all did those tests was the idea that you and I could go to a college and mark somebody for doing a wall. Remember that? It wasn't actually just that you're an expert at being a hairdresser. It was just the fact that you know that somebody had
wasn't industry specific. It was just an assessor certificate.
So imagine us rocking. Actually, we would probably be pretty good at that, because there's too much grout there. There's not enough grout there. That wall's no straight.
What's the performance criteria?
Oh, hilarious. Yeah, but the idea that you guys were that, and it was great, because I'm like, there you go. I'll deal with the comb. I'll deal with the comb and the scissors. You can.
So we
fight with that.
We did all the paperwork, and then a couple of the salons, because you would have the auditors come in, the external auditors would come in from City and Guilds, and they would come in and they would go to the salon, like, because each salon was in charge of their own own team, their own night classes. And a couple of salons didn't have great audits, like, because it was just the paperwork, but ours was like 10 out of 10, and Alan went, God, do me a favour, go and jump over there and check their paperwork. They've got an audit coming. Go and jump over there and do that and da. So that was what would happen. We're sent round checking everybody's paperwork.
Definitely 24. Definitely 24. I used to have to fix his health and safety.
There was another one. So
we're only kidding, David. We love you.
So we went and sorted out the paperwork, got it all sort of sorted and tidy, and then they all passed audits, flying colours, and that was the kind of, I think, the real starting process of, hold on, right, okay, so she's good with the kids, she's good at the paperwork, she can, like, get the standards done, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that was then when we went to Ireland. And
Also a sign of firefighting, because if you're going in to fix a thing, paperwork-wise, and you're not having to do it from the start till the end, you know, because you know what I'd be like, I would need to go, like, rewind, and I need to spend 6 months with this person to fix this one wee thing, whereas obviously you'd be able to go in and do it quickly. So, Howard Street, 70.
Number
opens.
70.
And to say it was too wee the day it opened is an understatement.
Massive
quite
understatement.
frankly. And that was, so as you say, you had Buchanan Street, you had George Square, with Royal Exchange Square, you had Great Western Road, Clarkson, and Stirling would have been opened by then. And Crow Road was probably just opening then as well, because if you're 2003, that's round about that time. And then I opened in 2004. So by the time you're there, you're into nearly 7-8 salons, right? And we all had a decent amount of, we all probably had about four assistants each.
Oh, and Buchanan Street was
Anyway,
still
well,
running.
well, exactly.
Buchanan Street and Royal Exchange Square and George Square were running with big numbers still.
So, needless to say, you know, you were trying to run classes. I think, did it not go right through to Thursday? You're not having to run classes.
I think we ended up having to open on a Thursday morning and having classes on a Thursday
because
morning.
it was just ridiculous. But you would come down and straight away you would go, oh no, this is, and I think,
and then I still did clients on the Friday and the Saturday as well. Yeah. So that was what kept going in the salon.
And we had to go down and do a day, didn't we, as directors, didn't we?
Yeah.
We went down and I just remember, like, there's just people piling out of that door, and you're thinking, this isn't going to, this is mental.
Kids on the stairs sitting, like, doing their written papers.
Hilarious. I mean, it was jumping, and it was good. And I suppose, like anything, you know, Alan's always one of these guys that, well, we'll fix the problem with a positive. And the thing that I try to have learned from him and fail miserably at all times is I've got to start already knowing that it's right. You know, that way, if I'm doing the thing, everything's in place and I'm doing it right. I'm even doing it just now with the Schwarzkopf lab thing, right? Because I want a particular iPad to do the thing with, right? Shut up, Ricardo, and just use the iPad that's over there. And when somebody needs it for the Vish machine, they can take it for the Vish machine, right? But that's not how my stupid brain works, you know? And that's when Alan's brilliant. They're like, just let's get it going and then we'll fix it as it goes along, you know? So the fixing it that goes along when it came to the academy was just because you open up the big one, and to say it's the big one is an understatement, isn't it?
Yep, 7,500 square foot.
It's many sections?
28.
Brilliant. And then that's not before you then open
Add
up
the 2 studios at the back, which can, I mean, as salon, they can take 10 each.
Yeah. So you're into
48,
50 section academy. So 2 classrooms,
2 studios, a classroom, salon, boardroom, offices.
You're full to the gunnels.
Yep.
You can't move in 70, and it's now time to go to the big one. So I think that should be a pretty good cut-off point for podcast 1, and then we'll delve into the monolithic thing that is the academy as it is now. So for this first part, thanks very much, Leigh. And,
Thank you.
We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.